and gentlemen, how are we doing this week? Back we go to talking about wrestling, as we love to do on AEW Mash, and this week it is a CM Punk special. 12 months ago, I had just woke up after watching the return of Chick Magnet Phil Brooks to professional wrestling. His AEW debut in the United Centre. Mick, you were with me.
I was.
On the podcast, reacting to it. We did a live react. It was our first ever live reaction sort of podcast sort of thing. Harvey, you were in a plane, from what I remember.
Plane, aye.
You were literally in the air while
Getting
CM Punk was out
smashed.
there, man. Getting smashed, watching The Office on Netflix or whatever. Or what was it? What was it you did have? What you were watching? I think you had some saved up, wasn't it? Wasn't it The Office?
I wasn't
Brooklyn
watching.
Nine-Nine.
I was supposed to watch that, but the two folk that were sitting beside me, we just decided to have a drink, didn't we?
So it was a sesh by the time you landed in the UK.
Well, the BA flights for Grand Cayman to the UK, it's all, the alcohol's free, so
What?
you know.
Oh, no wonder.
I didn't know that.
aye.
Sweet Jesus, aye, quite fucking right.
Have
So,
another
Mick-
gin and tonic, please.
If ever I needed another reason to want to fly to the Cayman Islands, like there it is.
Aye, exactly. Man, better than drinking in high altitude, Harvey. Get pitch quicker.
It's a 12-hour flight, so why not?
When in Rome. Hell yeah.
Or above it.
Or above Rome, aye. Far above Rome. So Harvey was in the air. Mick, me and you were on the Zoom call. We were watching it live, man. It's been 12 months of CM Punk back in pro wrestling in AEW. Current AEW champion, lineal champion, as it were. How do we feel it's went so far? I think we'll just jump straight into the big question. Has it been a success?
Yes.
Yes.
It's been mostly positive and overall a success.
Overall a success. So for wrestler, for company, for others, for business, I mean, where are you kind of basing your yes, it's been a success sort of answer?
So, wrestling as a whole, I think there'll be. It's very hard to put numbers on it, but I think there will be many lapsed fans who will have came back to pro wrestling because CM Punk came back. I think there will be many who were disillusioned with WWE but were massive CM Punk fans who would now be potentially AEW fans because again he came back, so they've tuned in, knew they might be fans of the AEW product. I think that it's potentially gave a lot of legitimacy to certain crowds, corporate and fans, to AEW, having CM Punk on the books and having him talking good things about the company, about Tony Khan, etc. I think there'll be a lot of wrestlers who will be more interested in working for AEW with stars such as CM Punk and Bryan Danielson and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of positives all around. There's always negatives that come along with positives. You know, there's always the other side of the coin. There are those who, from a fan's perspective, there are those who just aren't fans of CM Punk and don't want to see him in AEW or any wrestling ring. There are those who, within the wrestling industry, seemingly Hangman Page, as we might come to.
I think we'll come to that very shortly.
There are those who are not a fan. There are people that are loyal to the likes of Colt Cabana, and CM Punk's inclusion in AEW has negatively affected his position. So there's trade-offs, but I think overall very positive.
I think from a profile standpoint, this CM Punk was the first name on Tony Khan's team sheet, as it were, when he was deciding he wanted in to a professional wrestling company. Like he'd all these, as we spoke about way back, there was this kind of perfect storm of events where contracts all came to an end. So I end of 2018 with all of the elite in Ring of Honor, New Japan. Kenny Omega shortly after, mid-2019. Cody Rhodes. Chris Jericho, free, ready to go. Impacted a lot of guys going free, the likes of the Lucha Brothers, Proud and Powerful. Well, there was just this kind of magical time where there was all of these wrestlers coming free, so there was going to be a market to compete. And CM Punk being out of wrestling for, at the time, I mean, that would be 4 years then, that would be 4 or 5 years then. He was seen as the big get. He was the one that he really wanted to chase. But at the time, CM Punk didn't obviously fancy it. There's kind of the argument back and forth on whether the offer was serious at the time. Punk had says it was a phone call, whereas it was argued, I think, by a couple of people, no, you were made a very serious offer. Don't bloody talk rubbish. And obviously, over time that softened, and he joined a company which he saw was actually the legit deal. Like,
I mean, whether it was a serious deal or a phone call, just like, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have been willing at the time, because it's a startup. He's got to take a risk, you know what I mean?
I think that was what it was that held CM Punk back, was that it was a start-up, and that's why you didn't see him front and centre as the kind of the big face of the company from day one. I mean, arguably it probably did AEW better, because they then had to build and have built a lot of big stars from day one. Like, I mean, Hangman Page, perfect example. Kenny Omega. I mean, guys who have never really wrestled in American kind of company TV, like they're new faces for an American audience and for a worldwide audience, and they've been a great success. Like, I mean, he's been the cherry on top, I think, over the past 12 months as far as the profile for AEW goes. Like, he's been the big sort of cherry on top, and he's public facing, I would say, it's been a massive success, certainly. It's felt bigger, like, AEW since he joined. I would say, like, it's felt more like it's going to stay because of his profile and because of the kind of CM Punk sort of promo magic when it comes to these feuds. There's
a prestige and legitimacy that comes along with him.
Definitely a prestige. Aye, prestige is a great word for it. What do we think he's kind of passed through the last 12 months? I mean, feuds so far, I've just got a few noted down here. He's only really had sort of 3 major kind of feuds, I would argue, and a couple of wee minor ones. He's obviously had a lot of kind of showcase matches with kind of younger talent. Like, he's kind of went as the way the likes of Danielson has went, and Moxley, where they're putting over younger kind of stars in a way. But the main feuds, I mean, MJF, Eddie Kingston, Hangman Page, John Moxley. The Kingston one, I feel, deserves mentioned in there, even though it was a short one. Because it showed the potential for a heel CM Punk in the future. And I think that's the best version of him. I think that's the best sort of CM Punk sort of face, kind of no face of CM Punk, but the best sort of outfit he's got is being a cocky arse heel. And I would argue that's probably one of my favourite moments of AEW over the past 12 months was the Eddie Kingston match with him. I thought it was brilliant. That was at Full Gear, wasn't it? Of course, wasn't it? Aye, Full Gear, I'm sure. So. Aye, Full Gear with the Eddie Kingston starts with the Hurricane slap straight away. Then he's gone absolutely batshit in the ring while CM Punk's wondering where the hell he is. I thought it was just genius.
It was very well worked. I think they could have done more with it, and I think they can still go back to it. Certainly, the two of them like to go back to it on Twitter and on the mic. They'll mention each other now and again.
There's a lot of realism there with him, I think, is the problem. I think there's a lot of genuine animosity.
There's a lot of sort of kind of cannon fodder and backstory to that we'll probably not get time to go into because we've got so much to cover with it. But there is sort of, there's an interesting mix of real and fake in there. You don't quite know where the kayfabe line is with I
honestly couldn't tell you.
That seems to be in most of Punk's dealings in AEW. There is realism mixed in with every feud and every interaction. Whether it's somebody who grew up a fan and knew Punk's like that they're in there with their hero, or whether they maybe grew up as a fan and they became disillusioned because Punk walked away and they feel deserted by him. Maybe they never liked him. Maybe they don't like what he stands for then or now. Like, there's different sort of feelings and opinions that seem to creep into everything, like every time he has an interaction with another wrestler.
Absolutely. Like, that's just one thing, is that the line blurs massively when it comes to every one of his interactions with a big star. I mean, Kingston, I think, had referenced being pulled up for not being in shape as a wrestler. I think it was Punk's big sort of bugbear with Eddie Kingston.
He didn't think he was professional.
Didn't think he was professional. Thought he didn't respect the business because he wasn't committing to it physically to keep in shape and all that. And obviously a drinker and a smoker, Eddie Kingston. So totally the opposite of old straight edge Phil, as it were. But I mean, I can't tell. I honestly, for the life of me, I can't tell whether it's CM Punk and whoever he's feuding with enjoying that they have the wrestling world sort of guessing what's real and what isn't. I mean, I think if you're like a top wrestler, that's what you want. You want the fans and you want the journalists all scrambling to work out what it actually is.
Really.
Like, that's, in today's wrestling age, that seems to be what gets people watching. Like,
I think that nowadays the holy grail of pro wrestling is having a feud where the heel and the face, they're like intertwined and the lines are blurred, and one week one guy might seem like the heel and one guy might seem like the face, but then next week it's different somehow, and you're never quite sure, like, who's really the bad guy here? Is there actually one of them is a good guy, or they both bad guys? Like that, I think that's when wrestling's at its best. Modern wrestling.
And that's one thing you could say with, I mean, 3 of Punk's feuds are like 3 out of the 5 that I've mentioned there have had that bit of needle in sort of history, as it were. Like, I mean, the MJF one would probably be the most pro wrestling-y feud he's had out of the lot. Like, that's the most sort of actually following type
traits,
of a
traditional traits in there.
Your old school kind of feud, like, and I really enjoyed it. Like the MJF one. Obviously, there was the big sort of passionate MJF promo where he kind of talked about being the bullied kind of wee boy that he basically swung the crowd on, and then Punk comes out and he walks away and you can just about hear boos for Punk. Like, just absolutely brilliant. The Moxley one, the latest one, again, I can't tell if he's genuinely annoyed with his lot in AEW or if he's playing a character, CM Punk here. Like, his promo on Wednesday here, I mean, we're going into this week's thing, obviously, because this is his most recent feud. I can't tell, and I love it.
Aye, it's brilliant. It makes it like must see. You need to watch it and just see what happens, and then you're like scrolling through Twitter trying to find out the tidbits of information that comes out off the back of it. Like, so I mean, just to go into that a wee bit, like,
aye, definitely.
Punk comes out and cuts his promo. The first thing he does is he digs into Hangman and calls Hangman out. Now, supposedly that was not pre-planned. That seems to be the chat.
He's been in business for himself.
The reason Hangman's music didn't hit and Hangman didn't come out is because that wasn't scripted in any way, that wasn't discussed. Hangman wasn't primed backstage ready to go, the music wasn't cued, so they couldn't scramble and make it happen. So Punk gets to then cut his line about, well, it makes Hangman look dickish, but then he gets to cut his line about the apology needs to be as loud as the disrespect.
Aye. I don't call that cowboy shit. That is coward shit.
Yeah,
was what he said.
Yeah. So the chat seems to be that this stems from a couple of things. The first one being that in one of Hangman's promos when he was in ring with Punk, leading up to their match, Hangman made a reference to Colt Cabana and him being cut out AEW and resigned to Ring of Honor because Punk Didn't want to be in the same room as them or whatever because of like their whole history that we spoke about before.
Aye.
Like what exactly is went on backstage and how much, like how vocal Punk has been about Cabana, I don't know. It's possible that there was a couple of flyaway comments and then Tony Khan's taking it on himself to just like sort of preempt it and avoid confrontations and just take Cabana out of the equation. Being the smaller name, it was easier to just take him away. There's the chat that Cabana was going to get fired, but then the Elite had to step in, and then so ultimately the decision was made to sign him to Ring of Honor. And that was a
The Elite
compromise.
are big fans of Cole Cabana, so they're the Elite.
So exactly how that's all played out, I don't know, but the fact that Hangman had the audacity, seemingly, to reference that on TV in a promo really riled Punk up, and he saw that as disrespectful, apparently. And then the second thing is that in a recent interview, I think it was after a pay-per-view, I'm not 100% sure, Hangman was asked about learning for the big stars like Punk and Danielson and whoever else, and Hangman said he had nothing to learn for them. And again, this was seen as very disrespectful by Punk, apparently.
Aye. Hangman's of a different kind of breed of wrestler, I think, which a lot of their younger wrestlers are, where they know about the politics or the drama or the paper thin sort of patience towards any sort of comment. That seems to be something that comes for the kind of older generation. I always think like this kind of need to show respect to your elders in the business, and you don't know nothing until we say you know nothing. Like, and I always remember there was this old Cody Rhodes sort of promo in AEW against Dustin Rhodes where it was about the Attitude Era and the Ruthless. It was about the era kind of differences between him and Dustin, and it was aye, alright, you paved the road, but you set the speed limit so slow so you could keep up with the rest of us. Like, that was the kind of line.
Right.
And I feel like that's got a lot of truth in it, like of the kind of the generations past the wrestlers where it's fine you doing well as long as they think you're doing well. Like, if they're alright with it, it's on their terms, but you better show them the respect while you're doing well, sort of thing. Wrestling's a funny old business for that sort of political nonsense that goes on. And I think AEW was seen as the kind of haven where that wasn't going to happen. But with Punk and with his kind of sort of swaying his kind of profile as the kind of megastar that's signed, I feel like some of that's creeping into AEW now. You see a lot more about unhappiness with wrestlers, about people that aren't quite happy about the law, about backstage fighting. I don't think that's an accident, and that all seems to have creeped in over the past 12 months. And that, for me, would be a potential downside of CM Punk.
I think you could argue that would always happen, unless AEW stayed like 100% kind of new generational talent, and they never brought any older guys in. They never brought anybody in that had traditions that they were trying to upkeep. That's the only way they could avoid it. It just kind of so happens that Punk's the kind of the forebearer of that. But like, there's been a lot said about Danielson and how he goes on backstage. He's again meant to be like somebody that's very traditional, and the way he holds himself backstage and the sort of so-called respect that he commands. But realistically, it's a lot of bullying and stuff like that. You get it in many industries. It's this sort of holdover that the older guys, that they've earned their position and their respect, and so you need to grovel at their knees and be at their mercy. But I think there's a change in the generations, like you're saying, Paul, and there's also just that kind of, it's like a tug of war almost. Like, there's so many more young guys and newer generation guys in AEW than there is older guys, so it's much less likely to just settle into the more traditional way of doing things. So there's going to be that upheaval.
It's an interesting period for the company now. What way they go with it, what they trade, what, as you're saying, there's trade-offs like within a kind of a wrestling company, like what you want from your wrestlers and what you can endorse by favouring said kind of wrestlers, whether it be over star power or talent or so on and so forth. I mean, the comment is funny though. Like, I don't have anything else to learn. It's an unusual comment to make even from him. I think you've always got something to learn
as well. Like,
aye.
I mean, for a fan's perspective, like, Hangman's great, but
he is awesome.
Could he be better? Absolutely. Like, could he learn stuff for Punk and Danielson about in-ring psychology and stuff? Definitely. But could he learn technical stuff with Danielson? Definitely. Could he learn a lot more? Obviously, good mates with the likes of Omega. Could he learn a lot more in terms of in-ring psychology and crafting a really good feud and match from Omega? Absolutely. Omega's probably the best in the industry when it comes to psychology and story building. If he's not the best, he's right up there. So
I love him.
Like, I mean, it's probably like a bit of a kind of cocky throwaway comment for Hangman. Like, I don't know how much meaning there is behind it. You know what I mean?
It's funny, like it's disrespectful, but does it need to be taken as seriously where you're in that big a huff that it's get me out of this feud with Hangman, or I'm out of that, or I'm just done with this because I can't be bored with the drama, which is what seems to be the kind of reported sort of issue was CM Punk was actually considering stepping back for wrestling kind of during that sort of time.
I think one more tidbit that I'd be kind of remiss if I didn't add. Again, allegedly, Punk has been sort of heard saying to Tony Khan or whoever else they was speaking to at the time, I think it would have been Tony Khan, based on the Colt Cabana comments made in the promo by Hangman, Punk said that he wouldn't put Hangman over, he wouldn't lose to Hangman.
Wow, man.
Now, whether the booking was ever in place for Hangman to win and Punk like sort of bullied his way in to be the victor in that match, or whether that he just meant kind of going forward, like if there's a rematch, I'm not putting him over. I don't know if he meant it that way. And again, this is all alleged. This is like third party information or fourth party at this point. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know what he was thinking at that time, and I don't know if he still feels that way.
It's interesting if that is an actual kind of direct quote of what Punk's kind of demanded of Tony Khan. That's like you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, because that's the kind of treatment that he kind of suffered under, like from guys in WWE. Like,
is it possible that CM Punk's actually the fucking problem here?
I mean, that folk don't have the patience with this time round, is what I'm noticing with this kind of drama.
Yeah. The stuff that we're not privy to, you know what I mean? Like,
no, of course no.
Just, you know what I mean? He might be so over with the fans, but actually backstage he's
a nightmare.
Aye.
The other thing that must be
he seems to have his fans backstage, like certain wrestlers who absolutely think he's the man for it and totally go away. It's kind of views.
Something that has to be considered is that with everybody that's involved there, with Tony Khan and the way he's built his long-term stories and stuff, and like think of what's going on with MJF and how much of that's a work, we still don't know.
Oh, I know.
Exactly.
Like the elite being involved in everything backstage and in that kind of direct connection through Hangman, through it all. There is a wonder that all these things that are seemingly being leaked, like how much of that is true? How much of this is a work? Just to lay the foundations for a heel turn for Punk.
Because again, I wouldn't put it past the likes of the All Elite wrestlers to try leak false information. Like they've been good with protecting. I mean, look at the amount of debuts that you had no idea that were coming over the past 2 years, 3 years. Like that. I mean, they are good at keeping information. And would it be beyond the joke to suggest that they're also good at putting out false information in order to draw a bit of controversy towards their eyes because of that? I mean, perfect example of drawing eyes. Look at bloody Vince McMahon's nonsense with WWE. Their viewership has went up since all the carry on for the Wall Street Journal. I mean, that says everything about how wrestling fans kind of choose who they're watching. The real life kind of nonsense totally draws you into the programme. Like, so creating a bit of buzz about CM Punk's an absolute nightmare to work with, and he's actually the real villain. Would long term lead into the thing that Hangman Page was saying in his promos was, I'm protecting AEW from you.
Yep.
You're the threat to this whole company, and nobody can see it, but I can see it.
Just for what it's worth, just a wee comment for me. Just think about how the lines were blurred with Hangman and Punk, and how Hangman was acting very heelish, and ultimately loses his title, and that could have went so wrong.
Yeah.
And then if you want to come out off the back of that in terms of longer term storytelling, where ultimately Hangman gets the victory and he's cemented as the babyface and Punk's turning heel, like, is there a better story to tell than Punk was he's been the real villain all along, and that's why Hangman was acting the way he was, because Punk's sort of like however he is, but backstage, whether it's kayfabe or not.
Aye, it's. Even the pro. I mean, to jump back again, we're jumping all over the place here as far as chronological goes. But fuck it, it's that kind of episode. The promo lines that he was coming away with, like, he was going into the numbers thing with Moxley, like, he'll be the third best he'll be the second best John beating Chicago. He's the third best member of his faction. Funnily enough, he was the third best member of his old faction as well.
Yep.
He's and it was like a shoot in all direction, like, kind of pro. It was very unusual, like bringing a lot of WWE kind of patter into his kind of shtick. Obviously, again, it was this, talking about in your shitty mate Kingston, who's the second best Kingston I've ever shared a locker room with as well. Like, there was a lot of kind of shooting everybody, like it was. And I mean, Moxley's retort to it that's probably my favourite thing I've ever heard John Moxley say. When they look out, he's throwing pipe bombs, and he covers his like, he totally disarmed. It was fantastic. Like, it was so
class.
It was. I mean, there's a lot of drama, it would seem, going on everywhere, but the result is with this feud, I've got to say I'm very much enjoying it. Like, when they finished arguing with one another, like, because it was basically an argument-y kind of promo, like, there was a lot of interruptions.
Aye.
See, the minute they started trading the punches, it was like Rock and Austin, man. The crowd went batshit. Like, so it's maybe it's real, maybe it's not real, God knows, but whatever it is, it's working. I think is what I'm trying to get to.
I love that they've, for good or for bad, for right or for wrong, I love that they've landed in this position, and whether it's by design or no, I don't know, but they've landed in this position where they're having the title match, this big grudge match that should have been the main event of the pay-per-view. They're somehow now having it next week in Dynamite.
They literally can't
the
wait.
Night on release day.
Aye, well, on release day, yep.
They can't hold the match off anymore because Moxley and CM Punk are seemingly going to tear each other apart, so they just have to get the match done in byway. And now there's all these question marks about, is Hangman going to pop up, and is he going to intervene? Is MJF going to come back and get involved? Like, what is going to be the main event now at the pay-per-view, because they're doing it early? And who's going to be the champion going into that? Like, and it's genuine questions. It's no like, oh well, the booking's been going this way. It's obviously going to be Punk retaining, or obviously this is Moxie's big moment. Punk's putting Mox over. Like, fuck knows.
I could not tell you what's going to happen. Like, I could not tell you. I know that the one thing I do know is that Tony Khan would not strip his pay-per-view main event away unless he had something much bigger in his back pocket. He must have something monstrous planned, like, for his back pocket. I don't know what that is. I genuinely, at this point right now, I have no idea who'll even win this match between Moxley and Punk.
It needs to be something that can be sold in name value alone, because there's no time to do any booking to build it up.
Aye, exactly.
So whatever happens in Dynamite needs to be monumental.
Aye, because you've then got another week and then it's pay-per-view week. Like, so it's got to be massive. This is the big opportunity.
what you was, your theory, Paul,
Yep.
of a 4-way. Was it you?
Also, I was talking about this in the group text. I suggested 4-way is where we're going.
Yeah. So I'd say 3-way, and is it MJF or is it Hangman? And then Paul hit in with I think it's going to be a 4-way.
Aye, that's right.
And again, it's a blurring lines thing. Like he said, feuds with all these folks. Some seem to blur the lines of reality. MJF obviously caught the fucking nuclear bomb in Los Angeles and then disappeared for months. Like, I mean, that'd be what, 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago almost. Like, so is it all three of the things that Punk has basically been shooting out against that are all coming home as this monster threat? Like, and is he walking out of Chicago a champ still by sheer bloody work, or is he a heel going into All Out? Like,
or does he come out a heel?
Does he come out of the match a heel in the end? I mean, I genuinely think the conditions are ripe now for the heel turn Punk to be the best villain in wrestling. But so I hope the real life isn't getting in the road, because I remember we were here with Cody Rhodes before where we went, oh, this is perfect. Yep. He could run the world here as a heel, and then he just buggered off.
Yep,
and it was a wet fart.
Sorry,
go ahead, Michael.
Right, quick. So it's a one-line thing. Sorry. My 2 cents is that I can't see them doing the heel turn for Punk unless they're intending to bring MJF back as a face, which they may very well be.
I was just literally going to ask that. I was going to ask that. I was literally going to ask if CM Punk turns heel, does MJF come back as a face?
I mean, I think he possibly has to. He was fighting on the side of AEW wrestlers who had come in, built the flaming thing, and then watched WWE wrestler after WWE wrestler walk in on monster money, while he continued to put out arguably the best consistent work as an AEW wrestler.
Yeah,
like it was the ultimate kind of baby of the CM Punk promo back in the day. Like, my face doesn't fit because I didn't come for the big company, and I'm not being paid right. So fuck you, I'm on out of here. Like it was so similar. Like it was so similar to the
absolutely.
I mean, it's
one interesting thing to think about. If that's the angle to go with, and MJF comes back as the hero babyface because he stood up for the company, he stood up for the AEW originals, where does that leave Mox in it all? Because he ain't an original. Like, he's been there since day one, but he's no like indie man that's made his name in AEW.
But he has
WWE
over time though became the indie man again. I think Mox is a different cat.
He's somebody that treads the lines. Like, he's different for them. But where, like, being involved in this particular situation, where does he land in it? Is an interesting question.
I mean, he's obviously the GCW world champion. He's been over in New Japan. He's took part in the G1. He's done again all the things that I think CM Punk wishes he could have done years ago.
Yep.
Like he's done a lot as a non-WWE wrestler. Like all the great things. And I mean, with Moxley, he's fucking hell. He's putting the work. Like he's really putting the work. He was put in a hellish position when he won the belt over Chris Jericho. The pandemic hits the very next bloody Thursday. Like, so that's the end of his title reign in front of fans. It's been the one thing. Obviously, CM Punk injured his ankle and that put him out for months. But the one great thing that's been rescued for that is this kind of interim reign for Moxley. It's been, I would say, a success. It's held over the top of the card without going too far in another direction, and allowed us to get back to what's now going to be. I mean, it's a great feud now that we genuinely can't predict. So mission accomplished, I think, as far as John Moxley goes. Chances of him winning, what do we think? I mean, do we think it? I mean, we're all at the kind of I don't know where way it's gone sort of stage. Where do you think it could be going? Like opinions, who does win between Moxley and Punk? Who would you like to win? Go for it, Harvey. It was a kind of half.
You mean this week?
This week coming.
Title match.
The title
match on Dynamite. Who wins? Who wins for you going into the pay-per-view as champion?
I don't know.
It
could go either way for me. Honestly,
I bet me would like Moxley win. I've got to say,
I would like Moxley to win, and then
I think it's harsh on him to lose.
It is harsh on him to lose, but I mean that could be one of the angles that they go for. Mox wins by some interference, which means that CM Punk's not happy with that, and then they have to on what's it called? All Out. That's where they have, that match or whatever. Or you could have CM Punk winning by same shit.
You'd have to run it back or something like that. I mean,
or like somebody who like, you know what I mean? Somebody could interfere, make Moxley win and say, that I wanted to fight Moxley, that's why and then CM Punk's like, nah, that's not going to happen. If you want to fight him, you have to fight me, or 3 years are fighting, boom. Like that. I don't know.
I know.
I'm just fantasy in my head.
So, for me,
you've always got a wee fantasy booking plan.
I know. Had it been just straight up singles match at the pay-per-view as scheduled, I would have said Punk all day. But with the situation we're in, I think there's a very, very high probability that Mox wins. I think it's so much easier to keep Punk in the title picture and keep him involved in the main event, regardless of how it plays out for the pay-per-view. The Mox, if Mox loses, especially if he was to lose clean, then that's him dropping out of the title picture for a wee bit, I would say. And then it's very quickly trying to fling something together with Punk and Hangman or whatever. So I think for me, strong possibility this is the nod or the thank you or the whatever for Mox for the fact that he carried things through the pandemic. They're actually going to put the legit belt on him, and they like deliberately didn't do it as him winning it as a vacant title. They're going to have him pin Punk, but with the caveat that there'll be some sort of interference, I would think. That will set up something bigger at the pay-per-view, triple threat, 4-way, whatever it's going to be. So I'm definitely leaning towards Mox winning. The question is just how does it play out, and how does that then play into the story? How does Punk losing or potentially winning, how does that push him along as a face or as a heel? There's so many different ways they could go with it.
I have so many questions. We ain't got long to find out. That's the good thing about it. And as far as All Out comes, it's almost All Out time again, man. Can't wait. Cannot wait. It's got my money, I've got to say.
When's All Out again?
September 4th. September 4th.
First Sunday of September.
First Sunday of September. So they have 2 weeks from, currently we're on recording day 21st here.
Two Dynamites, 2 Rampages to go.
2 Dynamites to go, 2 Rampages to go.
2 sleeps, son.
2 sleeps, son. 2 wee sleeps in the podcast world. Oh, jeez. Right. Just to quickly get, last wee 10 minutes here, we did have a Dynamite and a Rampage obviously this week with a lot going on. Just to quickly, I'll just quickly run through things obviously as it were. We had obviously, and I mean this is pushed way back here, I think just because of the CM Punk drama, we had a Kenny Omega return in the main event of Dynamite in the trios match. We had the Dragon versus the Dragon Slayer. We had Garcia versus Danielson in the 2 out of 3 falls match. We also had Swerve in Our Glory in tag team action, tag team championship defence against Private Party.
First defence, I believe.
I think that is literally the first defence, and that's a fucking crime if you ask me that's the first defence now. But just to keep on kind of continuing summing it up, we also had the Best Friends beating the Trustbusters in the main event of Rampage. Trios tournament. We had Penelope Ford returning against Athena winning with that beautiful finishing move, which is just love it. Love that eclipse. Can't beat it. So we had a lot going on. What did we think in general this week? What really stood out? What did we enjoy?
I think I'm somewhat enjoying the trios tournament. I think it would have been better if the Undisputed Elite were available. I think it's a damn shame that they're not involved, I would say. But all in all, like, decent matches. The Best Friends makes a certain amount of sense that they're in the tournament, but the way they've came into it and having them go against the Trustbusters is kind of weird. But then at the same time, the match was actually kind of fun.
It was alright, it was an alright match.
It somewhat legitimises the Trustbusters. You know what I mean? It's like that's a kind of mini feud. It's probably no byway, kind of in AEW, but like that's like it's an alright mini feud to kind of really announce them. Best Friends move on, so they get the winner, House of Black and
Dark Order.
And Dark Order, right? So potentially we end up with a comedy match, effectively. Best Friends and Dark Order.
I mean, I don't know what way it's going. Shout out to Miro's match kick on Buddy Murphy, by the way, Buddy Matthews. That match kick was gorgeous.
Aye, so
I believed
that
as
well
kick
on Rampage.
That
thing. It's weird to me that it's like there's two different feuds going on there that are somehow all part of the same thing with House of Black, Miro, and
the Darby's thing.
Darby's thing. Aye.
Would that suggest they might lose against the Dark Order, by the way? Like,
I think so.
Is that preempting what the result's going to be there?
Surely there's a big match there at the pay-per-view for all of them, so you can't imagine they're also in the trios final, so they've got to lose, and it would make sense to have them lose first round, so that you've then got a couple of weeks to build into the pay-per-view match that they're going to have. So I think this is actually not. I don't think. I'm hoping that they're going to do something with Dark Order and Hangman here with this trios tournament and make the Dark Order more interesting and meaningful.
There's something coming over the next kind of couple of weeks. Fingers crossed, man. We've not seen enough Dark Order. I think last year, like, Dark Order were the biggest. Like, they were awesome going into the kind of build for All Out. Like, obviously there was that 5-on-5 match with a big epic entrance with Hangman and that. Like, it was such a shine on them last year to now. Like, it's a shame the way it's kind of, they've just disappeared into the background, basically, as it were. What did you think about Kenny Omega, by the way? I think this man is fucking at it as far as how injured he's pretending to be.
I think that might be his, from my psychology, in-ring psychology standpoint, that might be his best match.
Like, they're kind of moving deliberately slow, and I swear he's deliberately no nailing. Like, he did that, like, kind of the rolling Samoan drop where he goes into the moonsault, and obviously he kind of fumbles out it. And honestly, I was watching it and went, "You liar, liar." He's deliberately rolled short so that he looks like an idiot. Like, it's good to have him back. It's great to have him back.
I enjoyed the wee throwback to New Japan when he was doing the Terminator bit.
Oh, I know, man. Aye. Dun, 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 dun. Aye. And then Dragon Lee hits probably the most accurate suicide dive I've ever seen in my life. Like, through the ropes onto the guardrail, and they both managed to land into a breakfall just to live perfect. I don't know how these wee light heavyweights do that, man. I love it. Go to love it. I was impressed with Dragon Lee. I really was. Great showing for
I wonder what they do with him, if anything.
They kind of run out of TV time towards the end, didn't they? Really, with the kind of unmasking bit. They just seem to run out of minutes in the end. What do you think about Rampage in general this week? I felt like this was a much better Rampage. I felt it was worth my time this week as opposed to previous weeks. What about you, Harvey?
Rampage. What happened on Rampage again? Oh, we had.
Well, that fucking says it all right there.
That's damning.
So, swear.
Rampage on this week.
Where's Rampage on? So, Swerve and Our Glory win. Athena
Oh,
win.
that's right, aye. No, it was a
Best
more
friends versus
enjoyable
trust.
this week.
Aye, felt like a bigger deal, certainly.
Aye. Obviously, Hook was in the ring for 30 seconds or something.
Aye, against that guy who's
back
married
to
to.
that bullshit again. I'm not into that, I'm going to say.
I'm like,
Well, at least it
okay
was
then.
byway quick enough, thank God. Aye, Zach Clayton, who's famous for being married to JWoww. So, I'm a guy who has a famous wife from 10 years ago. Check me
used
out.
to be on TV.
But that's. I mean, even his wife, like, how long ago was Jersey Shore, man?
15 years ago or something.
I mean, that's so bloody old, man. That's such an old sort of thing, like, as far as
Mid 2000s,
like pop culture goes.
It was. Anyway,
Let's say about
that
that.
was a. It was. Gonna say,
Get crazy, get wild,
what was the.
oh party, be loud.
Snooky or something like that.
Aye, Snooky wants smush smush.
Stuff. Jesus Christ.
Snooky was.
She's wanting smush smush.
There's something I haven't told you, Cal.
That's
from
right.
Jersey.
Turns out they were all Jersey. Aye, Kyle's mum. What?
Anyway,
It's amazing how quickly we descend into South Park. Every
no.
fucking
There's a South Park reference for everything.
Oh, definitely.
You
Definitely.
know, you get the is it the 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever it's cried. 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I think it is. Like there's like a 2 degrees of South Park.
Aye,
You can
there
very
definitely is,
quickly
man.
get to a South Park reference.
Oh, absolutely, aye. I done it last night, getting into the fridge for a bottle of water. Obviously,
Water?
we'd had a few drinks, and I was like, oh, bottle of water. Oh, mineral water. That was me for about 5 minutes. Lisa's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Oh, bottle of water.
Right, back on point.
Sorry, right.
Rampage.
Wrestling.
Rampage.
Wrestling.
I'll give it a B plus.
B plus, a wee B plus show.
B plus.
When did we start doing that?
I don't know.
Harvey's rolled out a rating system here
I'm just B
on the
plus.
fly.
I don't even know how that scoring system works.
It's a B plus from Harvey this week.
Is that even good?
My scoring. It's good. It's not
good-ish.
not great, but it's good.
It's got alright. Aye, there you go. It's a not bad wee grade for Harvey there.
3.5 star then.
Oh, Harvey Meltzer, chucking them out.
Aye. There was some stuff on there that just didn't need to be there, but aye, mostly enjoyable. I mean,
Decent-ish.
obviously, as I just said, Hook, then Jade Cargill coming out and smashing the bloody wings, like.
I did quite like that, but that was quite funny. Not the wings.
Honestly.
okay.
The worst thing about that was the look in Athena's face. Like, she's looking
Aye.
up as if like her wee sister's getting mutilated on the stage or something. But no,
No,
it's your
my
wee, it's your wee
Meccano wing
crafting
set.
project that you made.
My ass and crafts, you bastards. It
Oh,
was
dear.
quite
What did you-
ridiculous,
what
wasn't
did you think about the Hobbs?
Oh, Powerhouse Hobbs with his
Aye.
promo at the Starks had get comfortable with losing. Quite liked it. Quite liked it.
It's like just very pro wrestling. Like,
Flip of the table.
actually, there's elements of, dare I say it, sports entertainment.
A wee bit, aye. A wee bit.
But
When he
I'm
went
not too
into
mad at it. Like,
backstage.
it's one of the more interesting things that the factory's been involved in a while. So I'm not mad at it.
Do you know what it kind of
Aye.
reminded me of was APA.
It's like
aye.
a reverse APA thing, aye.
Aye.
No, I mean that scene where they were playing cards.
Aye.
And,
Oh, God, aye. Could I
sorry.
go and seek
no,
them out?
no,
Aye.
actually what happened, but like,
Aye. Oh, I know what you
scene.
mean, aye.
Sorry.
I get it, man. I get
sorry.
it. I love that. I love that they've still got that bloody caveman cutting about in the pimp suit. That's brilliant.
It's quite ridiculous, man.
I do enjoy that. The only thing I
can't
would say
beat
on it is that they're wandering dangerously close to having the big bruising black guy going on as if he's thuggish and he's this kind of street justice element to his character. It just about works for him with the character of Hobbs that he's got, but there's a lack of character development for him because he's been held back being in Team Taz. So I think they need to kind of choose their moves carefully to say, they should choose their moves carefully now to save themselves work in the future, because this could be just like an entry level thing that's like a springboard for Hobbs as a singles wrestler. But it could also be quite damning, and then they need to give him a brand new gimmick because they've just made him look like a twat. So
I would hope this is moving Hobbs on.
I hope so.
Because sky's the limit for that guy.
Definitely, man. And he's
absolutely brilliant.
He's so much better in the mic than you would think for a lot of the stuff he did with Team Taz. He's very good all round. He is.
But he really is, considering he's no been as much. Like fingers crossed. One thing to say about the women's division this week was Britt Baker ripping the piss out of the Thunderstorm Dynamite. But we've got to. She was saying she was the wrestling world there. She was a conduit for us all, ripping the whole out of that. Loved it.
Brilliant.
I miss Britt.
She's the saving grace in the women's division, man.
Because it's as
the
always,
booking, and it's no through lack of talent, as we've said many times.
Yeah,
it's just it's getting the worst booking, and it's such a shame. Also, bad luck with like Statlander getting injured and whatnot. But
I know, man.
Like,
what a shame.
they've got so many different directions they could go in.
Yeah,
like they don't need to go straight to, oh well, there goes Thunderstorm. Like Tony Storm's going to have to be the challenger. That's the only option we've got.
Incidentally, by the way, the match between Kyle and King and Tony Storm was they two worked very well in Dynamite. I thought Kyle and King, I can't understand why they never signed her ages ago.
She was
on Dark a hell of a lot.
She'd made a few appearances and then she kind of went away for a bit.
She's also a Nightmare Factory graduate as well. I think she trained at the Nightmare Factory with QT and with Cody. You always seen her in kind of skits on the Sammy vlog, trying to get a place into the Nightmare Factory. It was this whole sort of win the jacket sort of long-term sort of skit on the Sammy Guevara vlog where it was her, Fuego, Baron Black and Preston Vance like win your way into the Nightmare Factory, even though Preston Vance had already been signed. Like fucking hilarious every week. Like it was really, really funny. The Preston Vance and bloody Cody Rhodes handshake. Look it up, honestly, man. Genius. But
I think I've seen something about that. I think I've referenced it a few times.
Like she'd done a lot with AEW previously, and then she hadn't been signed, so she'd been out and kind of done her own thing, like working in NWA and amongst other places and that. But I can't understand why she's never been taken on full time by AEW, because she's brilliant, and I mean, as a physical specimen, as a woman, like she's 6'1". She's a giant, a girl. Like she is a specimen. Like, and has a good kind of standard of work.
I would say there's an argument that she's been kept in the back burner because they were bringing on Jade. You don't want anybody that looks more physically imposing than Jade, because that just destroys her gimmick. If she's the biggest baddest woman about, then what is she?
True. I mean, literally, the only thing that Jade Cargill would have over Kylan would be that she's more muscular. Like that's it. She's more bodybuilder shaped.
Yep.
Female bodybuilder. Like obviously, Kylan King isn't kind of bodybuilder sort of physiqued, but got to say, very much enjoyed it. Decent match. Last wee thing, because I hadn't even mentioned it yet. The properly in length, the 2 out of 3 fall match, success. It's now the custody for Daniel Garcia, it would seem. We're heading towards, which I'd suggest.
I will say one thing.
Who's your daddy?
there's a bit of who's your pappy about it, innit?
There's a bit of who's your pappy going on.
My one take on it is they have made the best of a bad situation.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I thought the match itself was a cracker, I've got to say.
I think they booked themselves into a corner and they've made the best out of it.
They've found their way out. I would argue they found their way out of it, Mick. Like it's a high profile match for the pay-per-view, and it's
What
a shine
what's,
that boy
what's the
got.
match going to be for the pay-per-view, though?
It'll be Jericho versus Danielson, I think, at the pay-per-view.
Winner takes Garcia.
And winner take, who's your pappy? It's gone down that way, like, it is. It's got a bit of the Dominic Guerrero Mysterio about it, but I don't mind it, like, I genuinely don't mind it. It's a big, high-profile match. Jericho versus Danielson.
I can definitely see it being, that's the pay-per-view match, and then there will be the very predictable moment in the match where Garcia's got to choose what guy is going to help win the match.
Yep.
Whose balls is he going to kick?
Aye. I think one day we're going to see the end of Moxley in the BCC, as much as he's been great in the BCC. And I think there's going to be space for Garcia eventually. Because he fits them like a glove. Like, as much as he's been good fun with his Andrew Glauberman Kangol hat for Big Mouth, like, it's been great fun. I think long term this is the way they go, and it works. Yeah, I thought Garcia was phenomenal. I thought doing the Dragon Sleeper to win the first fall, perfect. Obviously fitted with the theme of the event, like the House of the Dragon, Ricky the Dragon on the time, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat on the timekeeper, Dragon Sleeper, perfect. It was the fact that he won and then he's shouting at the ref, count now, like he's that focused on winning. Like he's not even wanting a break between falls. He's like counting them out. He's out cold.
Which incidentally, like I don't know if the rules are written down, but I'm pretty sure Danielson's supposed to stand back up and then they're supposed to restart
they're meant
the
to get a break. but I can buy it is that he was getting on to the ref that much that the ref was under pressure. Like so that was the reason for that. But genius, absolutely genius. So great. I mean, great. Dynamite ahead basically tonight with this main event.
Yep.
Cannot wait, lads. I mean, he's both would like Moxley, but think it'll be CM Punk then. I think just to put a wee bow in this episode. You would like it to be Moxley. You think it'll be CM Punk, or what do we think?
I mean, sorry.
When you're ready.
I don't know. I would like it to be Mox, but there is I'm kind of 50-50. It could be either. So
you're not into bows, are you?
Procrastinate.
You don't want a bow tie in the episode.
Fuck your bow.
For me, at this point, I think it's going to be Mox. I think that's the way I'm leaning. But the only thing I want out it is to enjoy it. I don't want to be sitting saying, "Oh, why did they do this?"
Right. Okay. Fair play.
What about yourself?
Fair play. I think Punk's winning. I also think it's down to shenanigans. If I was to guess the way this next couple of weeks go, Punk wins via shenanigans and then he promises Moxley a match because he is just as outraged as Moxley. And then at the pay-per-view, the heel turn happens properly.
So then
I think that's how
a singles match at the pay-per-view still?
I think it might be, even though I said 4-way earlier. I've changed my mind as the episode has went. So I have heel turned on this episode into a straight old-fashioned singles.
If I was going to, at this point, knowing everything we know now, if I was going to fantasy about the heel turn, it would involve Hangman rather than MJF being the person that somehow gets involved, and it would be Punk, as you say, acting all surprised and shocked and outraged that he's done what he's done, trying to seemingly for the next week or so trying to make Hangman look the heel, ultimately then just to then turn heel at the pay-per-view. It makes the most sense. But also I kind of want MJF to come back and just to see how they do it, see what happens.
Just to see what goes.
But then maybe it makes more sense to bring him back at the pay-per-view, and that's the big shock. That's the goal.
Big shocker for the pay-per-view. Aye. Jesus, I just don't know, lads. Well, we ain't got long to find out, lads. As always, ladies and gentlemen, we are followed by our Harvey leading the podcast. What is it this week, Harvey? What are we getting treated to?
Soccer Mash.
The Soccer Mash returns again. And obviously yesterday we had MMA Mash covering what was a fecker of a busy week as far as fighting sports go. We even go into a wee bit of boxing, man. So be sure to check that out, ladies and gentlemen. For now, I have been Paul, as I always am every week. I've been joined with my two best buddies, Harvey and Mick, and we have talked about wrestling. Tell a friend, tell anybody you want. Most of all, just have fun and leave us
5 stars, baby! Boom!
Didn't forget about it. Bye!
Bye bye.